You are doing everything right and it still doesn't feel like enough. You set up your 401k contributions. You paid off that credit card last spring. You said no to the Vegas trip everyone else booked without blinking. You packed your lunch 4 days this week while your coworker dropped $60 on delivery and didn't even finish it. You are doing the responsible things, the boring things, the things nobody screenshots and posts because a Roth IRA contribution doesn't get likes. And yet you open your banking app on a Thursday afternoon and the number sitting in your checking account makes your stomach tighten. Your savings feel embarrassingly small compared to what financial Twitter says you should have by 34. Your friends seem to be living larger, traveling more, driving newer cars, and somehow still breathing normally while you are sitting at home eating pasta and questioning whether any of this is actually working. I spent 3 years in that exact feeling. I called it the financial fog. You cannot see far enough ahead to know whether the path you're on leads somewhere real or whether you have been doing a lot of disciplined, boring, invisible work for absolutely nothing. The fog is the worst part of building wealth because the early stages of wealth building are designed to be invisible. The numbers move slowly. The compounding curve is flat for years before it does something that will genuinely shock you. And in that flat period, everything feels like failure even when the math says the opposite. This video is about the 7 signs that prove you are building real wealth right now, even if your brain is running a completely different story. Some of these you will recognize immediately and feel something release in your chest. Others will reframe the way you think about your financial life in a way that changes how you see money permanently. I am Liana and welcome to Liana Invests. If you are new here and this video is already hitting something real for you, subscribe right now because I post content like this every single day and I do not want you to miss what comes next. If this helps you today, hit the like button because it gets this video in front of someone else who is sitting in the exact same fog you are. Let's get into it. Sign 1 is that money is leaving your account automatically before you even see it. This is the most reliable wealth-building behavior in America and it is so quiet and unglamorous that most people do not realize it is the engine. If you have a 401k contribution coming out of your paycheck every 2 weeks, or an automatic transfer hitting your Roth IRA or brokerage account the day after payday, you are doing the thing that 94% of millionaires did to build their wealth according to the Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires. You are paying your future self first. Vanguard data from 2025 shows the average 401k contribution rate hit 7.7% last year. Fidelity reported average total savings rates including employer match reaching 14.2%. If you are anywhere in that range, you are already ahead of the majority of working Americans. Here's where your brain gets it wrong. Your brain looks at the balance and calls it small. It compares $43,000 to $1 million and declares the project a failure. What your brain ignores is the behavior. The automatic contribution is the engine. The balance is just where the engine is on the odometer today. Someone contributing 11% of a $72,000 salary is putting roughly $7,900 a year into investments. At 8% returns over 25 years, that contribution alone becomes just under $600,000. The $43,000 you see today is a seed. Your brain is staring at a seed and saying it is not a tree yet. That is not failure. That is agriculture. The tree is coming. Sign 2 is that you pay your credit card balance in full every month. If you do this, you belong to a financial minority that is quietly and systematically separating itself from the rest of the country. Nearly half of all American credit card holders carry a revolving balance month to month. Total U.S. credit card debt crossed $1.28 trillion at the end of 2025 according to the New York Federal Reserve. The average balance sits around $6,500 at a 22.4% interest rate. When you pay in full, you are not just avoiding interest. You are avoiding the compounding destruction that interest creates over time. A $6,500 balance at 22% paid at the minimum costs over $9,000 in interest alone. That $9,000 invested at 8% instead would grow to roughly $32,000. The true wealth difference between carrying a balance and paying in full on a single credit card is over $40,000 across 2 decades. You probably do not feel wealthy because paying in full just feels like basic responsibility. It feels like the bare minimum. It is not. It is a behavior that separates you from roughly half the country. Every month the money that would have gone to a credit card company in interest stays in your financial ecosystem instead. 50% of American cardholders cannot say that. You can. Sign 3 is that you actually know your monthly numbers. This sounds unimpressive until you realize how rare it genuinely is. 47% of Americans entered 2026 without any budget at all according to YouGov data. Among those who do budget, the most common reason is just surviving the month, making sure the essentials get covered. If you track your spending even loosely, even imperfectly, even in a notes app you update on Sunday nights, you are practicing the behavior that behavioral finance research consistently identifies as the strongest predictor of financial improvement. People who track spending save 15 to 20% more than people who do not. The average American underestimates their monthly subscription costs by $133. Average impulse spending runs $282 a month. If you know your numbers, you have closed those awareness gaps. The money that other people lose to invisible spending stays in your account because you can see it. You feel financially anxious partly because tracking makes spending visible in a way that non-trackers never experience. They spend $350 on impulse purchases and feel nothing because they never look. You spend $90 and feel every single dollar because your tracking shows it to you. The awareness that makes you uncomfortable is the exact same awareness that is building your wealth. The discomfort is the mechanism. Sign 4 is that you have said no to something you could technically afford. This is the behavioral signature of wealth building, and it is the one that feels most like deprivation in the moment. You saw the concert. You could have charged it. You have the credit limit. 3 people in your group chat were going. You said no. Not because you could not pay for it, but because paying for it would have compromised something else. Your investment contributions. Your emergency fund. Your debt payoff timeline. That no is wealth information. The Ramsey Solutions Millionaire Study found that 94% of millionaires consistently lived below their means. Living below your means is not about earning a lot. It is about spending less than you could and creating the gap between what your income allows and what your lifestyle consumes. Every no widens that gap. Every gap dollar gets invested. Every invested dollar compounds. The median net worth for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $135,600. The 75th percentile is $488,400. That $352,800 difference is driven almost entirely by savings rate, not income. The people in the 75th percentile said no more often. They packed lunches. They drove older cars. They skipped trips. They protected the gap. And $352,800 of compounded discipline is the measurable distance between those two groups. Sign 5 is that you have an emergency fund, even a small one. If you have even $1,000 set aside specifically for unexpected expenses, you are in a stronger financial position than roughly a quarter of the American population. 24% of Americans have zero emergency savings heading into 2026. The median emergency fund balance across the country is roughly $600 according to Empower Data. Federal Reserve survey data shows that roughly 37% of Americans could not cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. If your emergency fund has more than $400 in it, you have more financial resilience than over a third of this country. You do not feel wealthy because an emergency fund just sits there. It does not grow fast. It does not give you dopamine the way a new purchase does. It does not impress anyone. Your brain categorizes it as stagnant money. Here is what it is actually doing. It is preventing catastrophe. It is preventing the $500 car repair from becoming a $5,000 credit card spiral at 22% interest. It is preventing the cycle that traps millions of Americans in debt every single year. The emergency fund's job is not to grow. Its job is to protect everything else that is growing. It is a wall. You do not notice the wall until the flood comes. When the flood comes, the wall is the only thing that matters. Sign 6 is that your net worth went up over the past 12 months. This is the metric that cuts through all the noise, and most people never actually check it. Net worth is everything you own minus everything you owe. Your checking, savings, investments, retirement accounts, and property value minus your mortgage, car loan, student loans, and credit card balances. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the median net worth for Americans under 35 is $39,000. For 35 to 44 it is $135,600. For 45 to 54 it is $247,200. These are medians. Half of Americans in each group have less than these numbers. If your net worth went up over the past year, even by $4,000, even by $2,000, the trajectory is positive. You are accumulating. The direction matters more than the number right now. I calculated my net worth at 29 and it was negative $11,400. It was terrifying. But 6 months later it was negative $7,200. 6 months after that, negative $2,100. Then positive $4,800. Then $12,000. The number itself was small for years. The direction was relentless. Every time I checked, the arrow pointed up. That arrow is what wealth looks like before it looks like wealth. It is what the early compounding curve feels like from the inside. Boring and slow and almost invisible and completely unstoppable if you do not quit. Sign 7 is that an unexpected expense makes you annoyed instead of panicked. This one is less about the dollar amount sitting in your emergency fund and more about the emotional response the expense triggers. When your car needs a $700 repair, do you feel frustrated or do you feel like your entire month just collapsed? Frustrated means you have margin. Panicked means you do not. Margin is wealth in its earliest form. It is the space between your income and your obligations that allows real life to happen without financial chaos. 24% of Americans have zero margin. 46% cannot cover 3 months of basic expenses according to Bankrate. If an unexpected bill arrives and your response is a sigh and a transfer from savings rather than a full spiral, you have something that nearly half of this country does not have. You have stability. Stability does not feel like wealth. It feels like nothing. That is exactly why most people do not value it until it is gone. Ask anyone who has ever spent a Tuesday night on their bathroom floor with a calculator app open trying to figure out if they can afford to fix their car. Ask them what stability is worth. They will tell you it is worth everything. The person who handles a $700 repair with a transfer from savings and keeps their investment contributions running uninterrupted is a person whose compounding engine never stopped. That unbroken chain of contributions is what produces the outcomes that look impossible from the flat part of the curve. Here's what I need you to understand about all 7 of these signs taken together, because individually they feel small and collectively they represent something enormous. The median net worth for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $364,500. Half of Americans have less than that after 4 decades of working. Many of those people earned solid incomes. Many of them looked wealthier than you do right now. Nicer cars, nicer apartments, better vacations. They looked like they were winning. They were performing. If you are doing the 7 things on this list even imperfectly, even inconsistently, even with balances that feel embarrassingly small, you are quietly positioning yourself to end up well above that median. Because the median is built by people who do not automate investments, who carry credit card balances, who do not track spending, who finance depreciating vehicles, who have no emergency fund, who cannot say no, and who panic every time something breaks. That is what produces $135,600 of net worth at 42. That is what produces the retirement crisis that is already showing up in the data. You are doing the opposite of that. The fog tells you that you are losing. The math tells you that you are compounding. The fog is a feeling. The math is arithmetic. Trust the arithmetic. The fog does not go away on its own. It goes away when you develop a clear enough understanding of how money works over time that you can see through it. When you understand compound interest at a visceral level, you stop panicking about a $43,000 balance at 32 because you can see the $600,000 it becomes at 57. When you understand opportunity cost, you stop feeling deprived about driving a used car because you can see the $500,000 the gap produces over 25 years. That understanding has a name, and it is financial literacy. It is the thing that clears the fog permanently. You are building something real underneath the surface of your daily life right now. The signs are there. The math is on your side. The curve bends for everyone who stays on it long enough. Subscribe to Liana Invests because I post every single day, and the next video covers the specific traps that knock people off this curve at every decade of life. The mistakes that feel rational in the moment and cost you enormously over time. If today's video helped you see your own financial life more clearly, hit the like button right now, because that one tap gets this in front of someone else who has been sitting in the fog and needs to hear exactly what you just heard.